God rest you, merry gentlemen, is probably usually one of the more upbeat carols in the sort of the lists that people knock out. But this one, not so much. Is a lot more reflective, and I think a lot of that is down to the tone of Andy Hull's voice. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's John, his name's Andy, and this is Christmas week. Oh, bloody week. So, welcome, everybody. So, deck those halls, trim those trees, raise up cupboards by myself this year. More than that, another year. Andy, what tale of merriment have you got for us today to listen to?
Well, it's an interesting one. It is a band that we are very familiar with here on this channel. And it is their version of a very classic carol. So you are familiar with both, but not this specific version. The band, Manchester Orchestra. So they've got tons of play on this channel. The song that they've reimagined is God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, and it's an interesting take on a classic that I would love to hear your thoughts on. So, you've got everything you need. Please go off, give this thing a listen, and come back and let me know how you experienced it, my friend.
Interesting take, you say. Oh, cue the banjos.
Not that interesting. Let me temper your expectations there.
Hoping for a kazoo. Anyway, I will go off and listen to this and come back and report my findings.
Excellent.
Gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. For Jesus Christ our Savior was born upon this day to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Obviously, this is a very well-known Christmas carol. And so when you hear a band's going to do this, you kind of think, well, what is their take going to be? And the first almost a minute sort of gives me this impression, and we're a third of the way through. So you have this lovely, almost shimmering guitar, which feels a bit sort of twinkly and delicate as well. It's nice. Some nice drumming, which isn't physical or aggressive. It's almost a bit sort of softly processional. And then in comes Mr. Hull with his voice. And I think just because of the nature of the way he's singing, this sounds already more reflective. Yeah, and when you think about the lines, tidings of comfort and joy, it should be quite a happy sort of idea within those words. And with him singing it, it sounds like somebody does need that comfort and joy, like things aren't great, and this is just going to soothe it. So yeah, it has more of that sort of down play to it rather than the sort of triumphant sort of feel that you sometimes get with this song. So it's an interesting take. Okay, let's see how it goes.
From God our Heavenly Father, a blessed angel came, and under certain shepherds brought the tidings of the same, how that in Bethlehem was born the Son of God by name. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. So I rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. But when to Bethlehem they came to see the infant lay, they found him in a manger where the oxen fed on hay, and his mother Mary crying out into the Lord and prayed. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. So I rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Yeah, definitely more sort of reflective, and started to feel myself sort of drifting off in my thoughts a bit with this. Whereas other versions you get, they're almost like a sort of barroom sing along. You get different levels of Christmas carols, don't you? Some which are sort of triumphant or even carousing, and others that are reflective or sermonizing, because they've got a job to do, pious, or even like just downbeat and depressing, some of them. But yeah, this is the tone of it was interesting. Really driven by his voice, but also gentle guitars that were really sort of sparkling. Yeah, interesting. I see from the thumbnail that they've done a load of Christmas carols, so or Christmas songs, I should say. So yeah, I wonder actually when they were singing it, there was a bit where he went "Rejoice, rejoice," something like Emmanuel. I don't really remember that from the versions I've heard. It probably doesn't mean to say that it wasn't in there. It's just I don't remember that bit. So I don't know if that's something he's stuck in, or if it's these carols are passed down through the years, aren't they? So there might be many versions of this song, and this is one that he's found that he likes. That's fair enough. I guess we'll have to get the info. Going back and speaking with Andy.
All right, you have returned. So tell me about your experience listening to Manchester Orchestra's version of "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen."
It was interesting actually. So Christmas carols, very familiar. And they come under different categories. Some are sort of triumphant, some are even carousing, reflective, sermonizing, pious, or just the goddamn plain depressing in the bleak midwinter, which I can't stand that. I can remember actually like carol concerts at school, and that one would be like always in there every year, and everyone seemed to just be trudging towards the will it finish. Seemed really long as well. Absolutely no, joy or feelings like, can we get through this thing? Yeah. This wasn't that, obviously. So this has the traditional, nativity narrative associated with the song, and the song basically has the message, that this is what happened and everything's hunky dory now. In the words of very wise philosopher, don't worry, be happy. Um,
Sage words.
so I do have a version of this song on my Christmas playlist. That Christmas playlist I knocked up 10, 15 years ago and I've barely touched ever since. I think I added in one of Greg's suggestions, but that's about it. So I looked up my playlist and I was really surprised to see the artist who did a version of this song. It was an artist who you have offered up to me, and I was fairly certain I'd never heard of before. And yet I've had one of their songs on my playlist for 10, 15 years. And that artist is Bright Eyes.
Oh,
Yeah, Connor Oberst or whatever his name is. Yeah. And their version's quite a bouncy little number and it rollicks along and it's under 2 minutes. And has a touch of almost that sort of barroom sing-along feel to it.
mm-hmm.
This one, not so much. But so because carols are so familiar, when you learn that, and most of the time when they're sung, it's in a very limited way. They're sung perhaps unaccompanied or with carol concerts or whatever, with maybe an organ or something, and that's about it. So they're pretty much down that road in terms of the traditional carols. So when you hear that a band has done a version, the first thing you think of is, oh, what will their take on it be? And this one, I have to say in general, straight away, is that it has a much more reflective feel to this. Because God rest you, merry gentlemen, is probably usually one of the more upbeat carols in the sort of the lists that people knock out, but this one not so much. Is a lot more reflective, and I think a lot of that is down to the tone of Andy Hull's voice. So it starts with this shimmering guitar, which is really gentle and really pretty, like a host of twinkling stars. And it's joined by the bass and the drums, who are also kind of restrained. They sound gently processional, moving like a heavily laden donkey. Andy Hull comes in, and as he starts singing the familiar lines, I mean, I know them. I don't really know them off by heart. It's not like they're tattooed anywhere on me, but you recognise them. But it really struck the big sort of contrast is when he sings tidings of comfort and joy, which is kind of the refrain in the traditional song. Mm-hmm. And there seems to be a lot more comfort and not a lot of joy in his delivery. And you kind of get this feeling that he's conveying that we're in a situation where we need comfort and joy, and he understands that as well. It's again, it's not like triumphant or anything. This is more reflective and comforting, and so we continue with the story, and then we get this chorus, rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel, something about shall come to ye, O Israel. And I don't remember that being in the versions that I've heard. So I'm wondering, because it was a traditional carol passed down through the decades or even centuries, there's easily probably different versions out there. So I don't know if this is an alternative version that he found, or if he's added that in himself, and if so, where from. It kind of felt a little bit familiar, but it definitely felt out of place within the track of this song, So that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, the song itself is very familiar, and it's sort of their take just makes you stop and think. And I actually found myself kind of almost, going off into a contemplative, state of mind during this, which again was really interesting. So overall, I say this is a really pretty version, and it's not one that you put on while you're getting the turkey ready or bopping around the tree. This is more a sort of, one of the quiet moments in between hangovers, or perhaps staring out the window thinking, how many years would I get if I killed all my family? it's definitely reflective anyway, and it's made me stop and think. So yeah, I enjoyed this, and it was a different take on a much, well-known and bouted out sort of carol. So yeah, I found this really interesting.
Yeah. I'm not a big Carol guy, but I do find myself having more reverence and appreciation for these kind of carols, the ones that have transcended such swaths of time, um, as opposed to these ones you hear blaring in department stores that are just, injected into our heads so that we go buy more shit at J.C. Penney or Macy's or whatever. This is a little bit different. There's an elegance to these kinds of carols that
Yeah.
again I have a bit more of an appreciation for. So when I knew that we were going to do this, I was like, well, let me focus on my attention on those kinds of songs. And I thought this is a really wonderful rendition of this song, and it made sense. Their approach to this song made sense given when it came out and when it was recorded, and I'll get into that a little bit. But you keyed in on a lot of the things that I thought were really gorgeous about this kind of stripped back song. There's not a lot of happening here, but one of them is the beauty of the guitars as they progress through this song. There is a beautiful somber nature to them. And in any song that features Andy Hall, I am going to personally be drawn to his vocal delivery because he's one of my favorite voices in music. And there is his voice, the vocal melody during the Tidings of Comfort and Joy part is something that I immediately latched on when I first heard this too. So kind of raised my eyebrows, made me perk up a little bit to hear that was a part that stood out to you as well. There is a sense of measured hope in his tone during that, and really the song in general, that is a bit different from what we're used to in Christmas carols in general, right? So to hear it done in this song, where they're literally wishing you to be and rest merry, is an interesting take, and I like how they're looking at it through that lens. And again, it makes sense, as I will tell you when I go over my notes. I don't want to go over the band really too much other than to recap who they are briefly because they've appeared on this channel, umpteen times. But Manchester Orchestra is an American indie rock band from Atlanta, Georgia, that formed in 2004. The group is comprised of lead singer, songwriter, and rhythm guitarist, the aforementioned Andy Hall, lead guitarist Robert McDowell, bassist Andy Prince, and drummer Tim Very, who did show some restraint on this track. We've seen him go a bit ballistic in previous songs by these guys.
Yeah, we have.
This track and 7 others feature on the band's EP simply titled Christmas Songs Volume 1. It was released on December 4th of 2020, and it was produced by Andy Hall and Robert McDowell. Net proceeds from the sales of the EP were donated to Atlanta Mission, the city's largest and longest-running provider of services for homeless men, women, and children, and whose mission is to create a community united to end homelessness, one person at a time. And I love people who put their religious perspective where their mouth is. Like, if you're going to be overtly religious, especially around the holidays, I want to see it, and I want it to feel organic and real. And this, going to a cause like helping homelessness in a major metropolitan area like the Atlanta region, is warming to me, and it gives me the Christmas fuzzies, and that's hard to do because I'm not even that big of a Christmas guy anyway. So good on them for raising money for a good charitable cause.
Well, regardless of whether you believe in a bearded entity in the sky or not, one of the key messages was, from the Ten Commandments, we all call it, is, hey, be nice to each other.
Yeah.
And you don't have to believe in anything to do that. And it's humanist rather than religious. And it's just a sign of you being a human being that you care about other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's laudable. And the mark of people is how of a person is how they treat other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the stunning thing is how many people there are that overtly express that they are religious, yet that bit that you just laid out there seems to slip through the cracks at times.
And they'll start wars because of it, you know, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
All that sort of stuff. You are right. So some users over at Bandcamp are kind enough to leave their reviews of the EP, since I couldn't really find any major music publication who had done the same. So humor me.
Been there
Yeah.
with some of my songs recently.
But user Joe Diaz had this to say in his review: searched for Christmas songs and clicked this album at random. So glad that I did. So beautiful and really a great voice. Melancholic but uplifting at the same time. A true gem. And that's something that I think Manchester does even outside of reimagining Christmas carols, is toe this interesting line between being both melancholic and also giving one hope, which, you know, that's just part of their sound, I think. While user Latin Bell would write, Manchester Orchestra's dreamy, melancholic sound reflects the familiar but rarely discussed sadness that sometimes comes during the holidays. And it's beautiful for that on its own. The bittersweet lyrics of one of my favorite traditional carols, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, hit me even harder emotionally during the pandemic. Get this and cry a couple little tears because it's Christmas and darn it, you deserve it. And Tara B added, it's been hard to feel the Christmas spirit that I have in years past with everything going on in the world. My favorite band putting out a Christmas album for a good cause provides a brief breath of relief while I let the beauty of Andy Hall singing wash over me. Thank you for this amazing album and the perfect gift to end 2020. So yeah, I think it's touching on a lot of things. It's a weird time, the holiday season in 2020, when so many families and loved ones were, you know, separated from one another, or just, you know, by law not allowed to convene to celebrate the holidays. I mean, I went through it myself. I know a lot of other people went through it as well. So to have little gems like this where I could just uncork a bottle of wine and kind of sip it to myself and listen to this and lament the fact that I wasn't able to be around my loved ones, while still carrying some shred of hope that in the coming weeks, months, or by the next Christmas that would come around, I would be able to do just that. And I was. But this, for me, speaking for me, this helped me get through it a lot, like what some of these users had to say over at Bandcamp. So their sentiments really resonated with me because I felt them deeply in 2020. Announcing the release of the EP, Andy Hall wrote, Manchester Orchestra are pleased to present Christmas Songs Volume 1. The idea of recording a collection of Christmas songs has always been dancing around in the back of my head. And this year, more than any other, I felt like the right time to attempt it. Many of the songs were that we decided to record are hundreds of years old, and our approach to recording them was to get out of the way and let the beauty of the composition do the talking. For our first collection, we chose songs that we grew up singing and that were ingrained in our musical inclinations from a very young age. Regardless of your beliefs or how you choose to celebrate or not celebrate this holiday season, I hope this collection can bring some peace and calmness to a very hectic and unnerving year. This album is available for pay as you want on Bandcamp, and all net proceeds will be going to homeless families suffering this year. We have high hopes that next year we can be together in some way to sing together and remember the feeling of being a community sharing the common love language of music. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, we love you, Andy and Manchester Orchestra. Yeah, really sweet sentiment. And obviously he touches on the timing of when this release would come out, and even the sad acknowledgement that some people simply won't be celebrating this year because of those circumstances. So please take this album as a modest sliver of hope for better times on the horizon. Really sweet sentiment, really great calls. I love this idea of just like pay what you can. It doesn't have to be a lot, or it can be a lot, whatever position you're in, to help people in a more unfortunate situation. Super sweet, gives me the warm fuzzies, and that's getting harder and harder to do the older and older I get. So hats off to Andy in Manchester. Let's jump into these lyrics. God rest ye merry, gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Jesus Christ, our Savior, was born upon this day to save us from Satan's power when we were gone astray. O tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. O tidings of comfort and joy. From God our heavenly Father, a blessed angel came, and unto certain shepherds brought tidings of the same, how that in Bethlehem was born the Son of God by name. O tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. O tidings of comfort and joy. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel, shall come to thee, O Israel. So I rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel, shall come to thee, O Israel. And when to Bethlehem they came to see that infant lay, they found him in a manger where oxen fed on hay. And his mother Mary crying out unto the Lord did pray, O tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. O tidings of comfort and joy. So I rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel, shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel, shall come to thee, O Israel. Yeah, man, just a really almost hauntingly pretty song in the guitars and that vocal delivery by Andy Hall. And I'm really glad that you found some of the same redeeming qualities in this track that I did. So thanks, man. Appreciate you giving it a listen.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of this classic and Manchester Orchestra's rendition thereof. Love to hear what you guys have to say about it. There's other Christmas carols or renditions by more contemporary bands doing classics. Shout them out in the comments field below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to offer. Also, if you're new here, please like, share, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. It's the season of giving, so give us a sub. We'll give you guys more content. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all on the next episode of the Audiophiles, and let us leave you with, please have a very Merry Christmas and holiday season, and we will see you guys in the near future. Be well.